Toxic workplaces. Let's get into it. This is Andy with Mindset Matters More. And today we are interviewing Amanda Wakefield. Amanda Wakefield is a resilience coach ranked number 3 in management and leadership on LinkedIn Luxembourg. After 27 years in asset management and 2 redundancies in 2023, she retrained to help professional women navigate toxic workplaces, dynamics, workplace politics, and difficult conversations. Amanda teaches boundary setting and career advancement strategies through corporate training, one-on-one coaching, and her upcoming membership community, the Toxic Slayer Collective. I love that. She's passionate about helping women stop managing everyone else's comfort and start advancing their own careers. Based in Luxembourg for 27 years, Amanda's a mother of 4 daughters and grandmother to 2. She loves traveling and DIYing her 125-year-old home. Amazing. I'm so glad you are here, Amanda. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Andy. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you about this that we're doing.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to dive right in. And my question for you to get us started is, you've helped many women with toxic work culture and everything, but what would you say is the most common misconception about toxicity that women come to you having?
I will probably say it's the boundary setting on taking on too much work at the beginning of your career. And that has a knock-on effect for the rest of your career if we're thinking of a corporate career. This is because women are often brought up to be nice, to be kind, to be communal. So when we go into our first job, we take on that role again and we go, oh, I can do the extra prints. I can go and make the coffee. I will answer the door. I will help train the new colleague. I will, all of these small little filler bits of our roles. And this then spills into you not having time to invest in either saying to somebody, I want that position, I want that project, and then to be able to verbalize what you actually do want because you're so busy doing the filling stuff. And then people then get into a cycle of not being able to say no. No, I don't have the time. No, that's not on my job description. I've got other things on my plate, which has the highest priority. So we then get into a cycle of continuing to do and continuing to manage.
Wow. So what would be the difference between like paying your dues and taking on too much work?
The difference is that there's a challenging workplace and a toxic workplace. Now, a challenging workplace is where you are constantly being tested that you have the cognitive ability to give more, not necessarily time width, but cognitive. So it's testing you to maybe structure yourself better. It may be that you need to learn new skills. It could be that you have to do some more research or ask people questions who have the answers and be strategic in where can I find these answers. And that is a challenging workplace. But and that's helping you grow. That's helping you be a better person for maybe the next level or even just for that role. But a toxic workplace is to punish you and to keep you low, to keep you second guessing, the one that changes the goalposts, the one that doesn't give you enough information, maybe isolates you from certain things when you should be involved, etc. That is moving into coercive control and toxic workplaces to keep you at the position you are in for a reason. So there's a difference between challenging and toxic. And for women, we quite often, as I say, nice, amenable, but we perhaps don't see the signs coming that it is toxic. And it could be that it is challenging, but again, we've never been taught to say no.
Right, right. And so what would you say are the signs to start to look out for?
Look out for being exhausted and irritable. If you are exhausted and irritable at work and at home, It means you're spread too thinly. And if you're exhausted and irritable, you are for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, your brain has mental overload. And when it's mentally overloaded, it's got sort of a brain fog, number one, and you maybe don't always you don't have total recall all the time, which is also difficult for us females when we have cycles, etc. So it's an added layer of complexity. And there is another thing of how can I say, just not being creative, as in when you're given a project, to be able to say, oh, I know how I could get the answers to this. You've got to sort of like have a moment of peace, and that
Mm,
peace can help bring you the answers. But if you're overwhelmed, so you're exhausted and you're irritable, you're not taking the time to be quiet and think.
mm,
So these are some great signs. And as I said, and it's from there you can then look, oh, am I being stretched or am I being excluded and in a toxic? So sometimes it's not toxic, it's just challenging, and you need to take some time and have some boundaries in place for it not to be so challenging.
Oh, I love that. And I love the idea of taking time. Like whenever I coach clients, that is number one, to check in with yourself, check in with that inner knowing, check in with that moment of, does this really benefit me at this time? And that's really a hard question to ask, especially at work, because we oftentimes feel like I have to. This is what my boss told me I need to do, so I have to. And so we coerce ourselves into going beyond what our natural limit is. And so, how do you find that? Um, like, what's one step that you could take to be able to at least begin to center yourself?
I think there's a lot, and there is already a lot of things out there to help you with. And this is, I think you and I both have it when we're coaching a client. Every client is totally different. I
Mm,
am as unique as you are in the world. And everybody, I would wish all of my clients understood this even more when they come to me, how unique and special they are. And it's with your uniqueness and your specialness that we will find a solution and a tool that can help you bring you the centered peace. Now, if everybody had the same style and the same skills and the same personality, there would only be one tool out there. But this is
mm,
why there are so many tools, because we are so different. So I'd start out with a couple of questions, but one of them is, let's just for 1 week track your energy when you wake up in the morning
mm,
and when you go to sleep. So I often have, we do, I'm a great fan of post-it notes on the bathroom mirror at the beginning, and have it just right now, just to remind people to focus in, oh, what is my energy? And it's just like, we just do on a post-it note, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, have your pencil ready. What is it today? Don't. And it's so simple. It's not even 2 seconds. In the morning, what is my energy level? And to see how it ebbs and flows over the week. Is there something? And then from that data, and we have to have data, because this is where you can tap into yourself so much easier, instead of saying, oh, well, I think of. Well, no, if you've written it down in that 2 seconds in the morning when you went to the toilet, now that a week later, we've got some extra data. You're not having to reflect back. We've got hard data. It's all about you. Let's look at your energy levels in the morning and your energy levels in the evening. Let's look at that. Let's start there and see from there where it goes. Now I know, I'm a mum of 4 girls. I know what it's like. It's it's hard work being a mum, and having to work hard time is super hard. And I was a single parent. I've been a single parent for the last 17 years. And it is really, really hard to fit it into your day, but you can structure it so that you say, okay, I am going to take that 30 seconds at that moment to look at something that is for me. And I think because we're all guilty of this, we sort of like make excuses, and we say, well, I
mhm.
don't have time for it. Well, if you've got time to put a load of washing on, you've definitely got time to check in with your energy. I'm not
Right.
asking you to do anything with it. I'm just asking you to check in with it. The
Hmm.
doing something with it comes after we've got the data. But so you do have time. If you've got time to put on some washing, you've got some time to start doing some reflective work as well.
Acknowledging everyone's uniqueness is so powerful. But you're right. The step number one is to just see, where are you? Set a baseline. Start to see, hey, this is where I'm at, and then take it from there. What was your like moment of like reflection? When did you start to reflect on your own energy?
I got cancer for the first time in 2006,
Oh,
and in 2007, I I knew my marriage was in a terrible state,
mm,
and I wasn't getting any peace. And how can I say it? There's a volunteer agency here in Luxembourg, and they offered me some sessions where I was how can I say this? Because of my treatment, my hands and my feet were really, really cold. Very, very
mm,
often. My energy was extremely low. Um, and it was a bit of an ongoing cycle, really. So they invited me and said, look, we'll have some sessions. We'll teach you some sort of sleep, should we say, and we'll teach you to tap into warming your hands and feet. And I was like, okay, let's just try this. And I'd never tried anything like this in my life. This is in 2007, and sorry, and I did some meditation with them, and after about 7 sessions of just pure meditation, taking me to my happy place, and we used anchor words, which you probably understand, and this brought me to a place where I was able to physically warm my hands and my feet, and I was like, wow, if I can do that after 7 sessions, 7 sessions, I was like, okay. But what it also made me realize in these sessions is that my marriage was in a terrible state and that I had to fix it or leave it. And that started my journey of self reflection.
oh, first, I want to just acknowledge how powerful it is to share with us and be vulnerable right now. Um, I think, especially something as cancer and, a marriage that feels like it's falling apart, those things, they often force us to really go in. Those massive life events are like an awakening of sorts, and they're deeply traumatic in a sense, but they often lead us to a place that we hadn't discovered within us before. How do you find that through those experiences that you've been able to facilitate your own coaching and use that sort of information to help other women? I know you help in like toxic work culture, but like how did the interconnectedness through those times, like how do those translate for you now?
Some some moments are light bulb moments, but some moments are sort of like a dominoes effect of like, oh, and this will happen over like a couple of weeks or months. You'll go and you'll learn something in your brain, and then you'll have a couple of good sleep, should we say. And after a few good sleeps, you'll go, another bit will go, oh, and it's
Mm,
another layer to the oh, and it becomes, and at the end of the year, you're like, whoa, that was some learnings I did that you can have in your head. And those learnings for me are what I help women with. But I realized is that the more stress you have in your life, the more upset, the more unhealthy you physically are.
mm,
And I often say that the more stressed I am, the more wrinkles I'm going to get. And I don't want any more wrinkles. I've got enough. So I need to be less stressed to have less wrinkles. So I try to be as stress-free as possible. And this is where I try and help other women and say, okay, let's recognize, like we talked about the
Mhm.
energy. If you've always got low energy, you're going to be chasing for more energy from
Mhm.
somewhere. And we'll take the quick fixes and we won't take the long quick fixes, because we're in it just to have something, and that's often not where we should be putting our focus. So it's trying to help women understand that we can achieve more if we're a bit more strategic, and if we're a bit more reflective on who we are, who we truly
Mhm.
really are.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. I think stress, when it comes down to it, can be the core of anything. It's whether physical symptoms, spiritual symptoms, psychological symptoms. Energy management, I think, is crucial to learn. So, when you are working with your clients, so I often think of toxic work environments as the three different layers. The first is, what your superiors are doing, what they're requiring of you, what they're demanding, what your peers are doing. Maybe they're pawning off work or not taking accountability, but also what your subordinates are doing. Maybe they are blame shifting, not getting things done. Like, how can all these different layers really impact you on a day to day in terms of your career advancement?
Exactly. So I often write with women in leadership roles and ask them what is their most difficult conversation they have in the office. And often both sides, if it's upwards feedback or downwards feedback, the crux of it is empathy. The, the crux is, I don't want to say to my boss, he's not doing his job. And I don't want to say to my subordinate, they're not doing their job. And we have empathy, too much empathy. So we coach through how to deliver bad news. Either
Mm.
you're underperforming or, we've now gone through many iterations of underperforming and it's just not working out. How do we get there? And it's to go into that conversation with a strategy in mind. What is your message? You don't want to go in there with an emotional message. This is not the time or place for emotional messages. How can you portray that message in a kind, caring, but firm way that you get the message across? So you've got to do that before you're in the meeting. What is it you need to say? And number one, of course, is it your place to say it? If it's upwards, you're not doing your job, then that's going to get you nowhere. As much as I would like to think it's not going to get us anywhere. So there's ways that we can talk to people, and the way we can talk to them is to meet them at their level. If we've got it happens an immature boss, we have to speak to them at that level.
Mm.
If we've got a boss that is toxic, we do have to meet them at that level. We are not going to get anywhere if we come forward with empathy, if we come forward with our emotions.
Mm.
So it's it's very multi-layered, and upwards feedback, downwards feedback. One of the biggest blockers for all of us females does seem to be empathy.
Wow. So I've got two questions. The first one is, I have seen that a lot of feedback should be in form of a sandwich, like something good, something constructive, then something good again. But I've been hearing lately that that's actually not a good method. Like, do you employ that?
No, I don't employ it. No,
Okay,
no.
okay. Well,
I
let's talk about it.
Yeah, I have a sort of method that says it's the focus is, what do you want to say? What is the bottom line that you want to say? And how are you going to wrap it? I can't remember the exact framework. I have it somewhere, but it's to be strategic on what you need to say and to have the end goal, and to also, if this is part of coaching, How would you like to receive that message? If
Mm.
somebody then goes on about their delivers something to you in an emotional way, that's not going to resonate with you because they're just dumping, quote unquote, they're dumping their emotions on you. That's not very productive.
Right.
In a work situation, it has to be productive. It has to be strategic and productive. And it has to be super relevant. If you're going to go for example, a salary negotiation, you can't say, well, I've done a great job for the last 12 months and I achieved all my goals, so I need 5%. No, you have
Mm.
to go, I came in, I have achieved project X, Y, and Z, or you told me to handle this many calls, you told me to bring in this revenue, or you told me whatever your goal were, I achieved it super specifically.
Mhm.
And I achieved it in the time frame. I didn't delay the time frame. The time frame was delayed because of this, that, or the other. So there are ways that you can do that. The one thing I do ask all of my clients to do, I have something called a victories vault. And in the victories vault, so on a weekly basis, on a Friday afternoon, you carve out half an hour for yourself. And what it's to do is because when your salary negotiations come around, they're always like a year around. And you have you can't even remember what happened last week, let alone 11 and a half months ago. So you just have your victories vault as a set time in your calendar. And you have the date, the person, and what was the message. If there's an email, great, you can drop that in there. If not, what was it? Because people do drop by you and say, that was a fantastic job, or wow, I'd never thought that you could have done that. That was a great creative thinking that you did there. Or oh, thanks for picking up the slack on that for the others, or somebody's off sick or something else, and you stepped up. So take it, remember it, have it logged so that when you come for your salary review a year later, they cannot say to you, you didn't step up or take over or whatever. You have got a stack of evidence to say, I have done this and I am deserving of a pay rise because of X, Y, and Z. So that's why you have to think about it really beforehand.
Oh, that is genius. I remember when I worked as an engineer, and those assessments would come every year, and I would have no idea what I did for the entire year. I have no
Yeah,
idea what I'm just like, I showed up on time, I did my job, and could not recall whatsoever what it was that I had done. Because it's like a year in review, and you're just like, no clue, none whatsoever. Like I could tell you about the immediate stuff that I had done. And, a part of one of the reasons why I wound up leaving the corporate world was because of those reviews, because it always felt like for myself, it was like, it was never enough. It was always like, you know, like what can you say when you're an engineer, because we're not generally creating revenue, like we're generally not creating like tangible financial metrics for a company. We're putting output of like very specific documentation, or so it was always something like, yeah, I did my job. And that was very disheartening. Like a lot of these times, these yearly evaluations can be disheartening. And yet, corporate has sort of built into their structure as like, we can't reward you unless we know that you've done well. How is it that when you are talking with women who are trying to climb the corporate ladder, how can you ensure that they are taking ownership of their success alongside with the success vaults?
having the sense that we are in the driving seat of our careers. We are the ones that drive it. Other people have an influence, but we drive it. And being able to say no at the right junctures. So, for example, quite often think of one particular client who's extremely good at a particular task. And people would often run to this person and say, could you, would you mind? And this person, being very kind, would go, yes, of course, yes, of course, yes, of course. And then when the review came around, because they'd never put themselves forward for quote unquote extra work, they'd taken on the extra work by being so amenable. They weren't seen as being thirsty for promotion. So
Wow.
we had to change it. We had to change it a little bit, whereby you still take on the work, but you block a little bit of it and you reposition yourself as the consultant expert to say, come to me with something as the consultant expert. So we sort
Hmm.
of carved out a position that didn't even exist in the company, whereby she would say no to people without saying no. It's sort of like, I'm currently working on this and I don't have the capacity. Go and ask blah blah. If they don't have, then please come back to me. But it won't be able to do until an X time. So you're reframing the conversation of when you'll be available to help out. So you
Hmm.
never say no. And with this, then they were because you would ask this at the same time and say, look, if it's really urgent, go and ask the boss if it's urgent and then come back to me. So then what was happening is the bosses started to realize that the other staff were asking her to help. So she became
Hmm.
visible at the next line. And that visibility and then her saying no gave around that she was more thirsty and she got a promotion a year later.
That is amazing because you're right. Sometimes bosses, they just don't know, right? And we often won't tell them, hey, I am doing this thing. I have become a subject matter expert in this thing. And it's just, we think, okay, I'll just do it to be nice. So that is empowering and a great tool. Do you work with men at all or just women?
No, I work with men as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so do you find that there is a difference in ownership between, how men approach, career advancement and women? Or do you think there's like a blanket of, not being able to take that ownership?
They had a more linear approach to their career, as in they'd started here and that was the next level and then the next level. But I came in as a coach and said, well, what is it that you want to do? What's the end goal?
Mm.
And the end goal was something completely different to what they're doing now. So how are you going to get there? Well, I'm going to get to this level in my career, then I'll have enough money, I'll stop, and then I'll do this. And
Oh.
I was like, well, why don't you go over there a little bit? So instead of being linear and then moving, how can you integrate that now in that goal? And this person did and got a six-figure position within, I think, 4 months, 5 months of us working together. And it was a change of, I have to go there, 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 there. Then I'll have enough money and then I can retire over here. And it's like, no, you can go in that direction. You don't have to go like this. And so that was made me realize the difference for that person, the cognitive vision that they had for their career, as where females are often a lot more open to different challenges and having a lot bigger, less linear, a little bit more like snakes and ladders and not like straight up.
Yeah. So I recall I remember going into when I was an engineer, I remember going into my boss's office and he was telling me the trajectory of my career. And, I want you to start mentoring. I want you to start taking on more projects. I want you to start doing this. You're going to get to the next level. And I just remember thinking, I hate all of that. And I remember thinking, that is definitely not for me. And I knew just maybe instinctively, or maybe it was just very blatant that if I went down that path, it would not get me to where I wanted to be. Like I did not see a connection between the two because it was very much like the
Yeah.
further the more linear that it was, the more separated I became from where I wanted to be. And it was just like, yeah, no,
Mm.
like the linear path for me was like never, never even a question.
Not doing this.
Exactly.
I know how it's so strange how the males do have generally this linear pathway, which us females generally don't. I mean, but then again, I don't know if I don't feel it's something that we instinctively know. I think it's just we go to school and then some people know what they want to do, some people don't know what they want to do,
Oh.
and I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, knowing what you want to do.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think with women who want the linear trajectory, that's wonderful. Men who want it, great. Like whatever the journey is for me, especially as a coach, like I'm like, don't take the step if it is not in alignment. That's really what it is. It's the alignment piece of where do you want to be and how do you get there? Like, maybe not like in this linear fashion, but how can we start moving you in that direction? I always feel like going into alignment isn't like a sharp hairpin turn. It's like trying to turn a massive cruise ship that it's like you have to move the whole boat, not just like a quick turnaround. It's going to be something that can be slow and steady, but super powerful. Or it might even be the hairpin turn, if you can swing it.
I find it's really hard for people to know what they're aligned with. There is you know, so much information in the world we live in.
Mm.
I can't even remember how much. I think there's some studies on how much information we absorb before 10 o'clock in the morning, just from the daily news, the traffic jams, the kids, the washing machine, the food we need, what we were going to wear, the whole shebang. There's so much, as were 25 years ago, even more, so 50 years ago, of what our grandparents had, is like a speck in the ocean of the amount of information that we receive now. And it's no wonder that we are overwhelmed, even if we have
Mm.
no decisions to take. It's just as an overwhelm of information. And because of that, and then family values, society's values, people don't understand, how can I work out what my values are? What is
Well,
in alignment with me? I don't know. I mean, and this is it, this is the something, some this is why I think energy is so important. Is energy is, well, are you repulsed by it, or are you feeling energized by it? And there's a whole world in between. And just because you're ambivalent about something, that's also data. Shouldn't you be leaning towards something that brings you to a higher energy, makes you feel alive, makes you feel that you want to dance? Just because you're ambivalent about something doesn't mean it's the right way to go.
oh, I love that. And maybe just finishing up here, how have you been able to start stepping into alignment recently? Like, what was something that you've been doing recently to keep you stepping into that alignment?
Mhm. I always try to remember that I'm going to, I'm always going to make mistakes,
Mm.
and that's perfectly fine. But I have the humility to say I've made a mistake, and I also have the humility to say at this particular moment I don't have the answers. Is it important that I try to find the answers, or can I just let the answers come over the next couple of weeks, maybe as I have sleeps, I have conversations with people. I might research something, and this is about myself, about my inner being. And I think I just try to check in with myself on a very, very frequent basis. And then if I'm acting out of not being kind, say,
Mm.
wow, Amanda, why are you not being kind? What's going on? What's going on, girl? Let's try and sort this out, because this isn't you. This isn't right. This isn't normal. Let's work it out. And to be kind enough with myself to say you're not being kind, but it's been honest as well with myself, if I can, and say, let's work this out, because you can work it out. You can sit with yourself as you're going to sleep and say, did that come from a place where Amanda wants to be? If not, then let's change it.
Uh, what a beautiful practice, Amanda. The nightly review is something that I personally employ every day. It's like, where could I have been better or been more aligned with what I truly want? Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been amazing. And I would like for people to be able to find you. So tell me, how can people reach you? What are your next projects? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Amanda Wakefield, just search that name, probably Luxembourg as well. Might help you find me. And I also write a weekly Substack, so quite an in-depth one. The last one I did was the dark side of nice, what we were just talking about now. So women being amenable and how it can affect our career progression. I drop a Substack every Wednesday, and I also have a Facebook group which is Courageous Conversations.
Oh, thank you so much, Amanda. I'm sure that so many people have needed this conversation in their life, and I can't wait to see what you bring forth in this world.
Thank you very much, Andy. I really appreciate you having me today. Thanks.
Thank you. And everybody watching today, love you guys. Bye.